Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
Oh, this can't be real life. Oh, this cannot be real life. When Shane Gostisbehere scored the goal to make it 3-2, I tweeted out a beautiful gif of that 5-hole goal and said, "Suck me back in, baby," because after beating the Boston Bruins in regulation and Travis Konecny being a phenomenal player, the best version of Travis Konecny that we have seen in quite some time, he was a pest, and he was making sure that you were getting on the power play, and he was scoring goals, and he was changing the outcome of the game. Travis Konecny was a dog, and that was the version that you got all of last year, and you've barely seen that. You saw it in flashes here and there, very minorly throughout the season. You got it on full display in one full game out of Travis Konecny against the Bruins. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And you find a way to string 2 games together in a weekend, back-to-back. That would have been magnificent. And then you collapse. You collapse in this ugly way. And your veterans and Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier get waxed and hosed by guys like Jeff Skinner and just poor decision-making when it comes to icing the puck. I hate to put the blame on one scenario because, as I alluded to, there were problems after the momentum shift occurred, but I thought that there was a very terrible decision made by Robert Haig that forced the comeback to even start to begin with. So when it's a 3-2 hockey game, the Flyers are up with 8 minutes to go. The Sabres come in and give a little touch to Carter Hart, just a little tap, a little how do you do, as he's covering up a play and getting a whistle. And here comes Robert Haig punching people in the face, thinking he's Mr. Tough Guy. And that changed everything. You just gave life to the Sabres. Now, as I alluded to, there were plenty of problems after that you can attack and say, well, why did Claude Giroux ice the puck? And why did Sean Couturier do this? And why did guys do that? It was all around the board. There were problems that occurred after that it happened. But as a guy that is a little bit of on the edge type of player, Robert Haig is a player that plays with emotion, that brings the physicality, that plays a little tougher style. You can't just do that and act as if there's nothing that happens on the other side. You're giving them a little bit of momentum. Just a smidge is enough. You don't need to be fully engaged and starting to cross-check people in the throat and start a scrum. You allowed Buffalo to have just a little bit of life. There's a reason why you don't fight when you're up 5-1, 4-1, 3-1. You have to pick and choose your battles. You thought the Sabres were lifeless, and quite frankly, they are. And that's that just shows you the disaster of a loss that this really is. They didn't have Taylor Hall. They didn't have Jack Eichel. Everybody else in this league finds ways to absolutely annihilate the Buffalo Sabres. Yet when the Flyers play them, they have to grind one out of just the skin of their teeth and come back and find a way just to squeak out a victory, or they lose. They flat out lose, which is a mess considering where you are in the standings right now and how important every single point is. You 100% just collapsed and fell right on your face when you had this in your grasp, which could have changed the whole entire narrative. You string 2 wins together. You're just putting pressure on Boston. They're missing some defensemen. They're worried about their first line being the only line that can produce. They're not getting depth scoring, so they're trying to put Pasta on a different line, and then they're trying to throw Pasta back on the perfection line because that's the only way they can generate some sort of buzz. Your special teams was phenomenal when it comes to killing off that Bruins penalty, or your penalty kill, killing off the Bruins power play. You had everything rolling for you, and you were just creating a little bit of noise and saying, hey, Boston, just make sure we're here. Remember, don't slip. The numbers were not in their favor, and the mathematics were still not in their favor with the amount of games played they had compared to Boston. But just putting 2 wins together and getting some sort of energy and flow, there could have been just something, some sort of spark, just keeping it in there, staying engaged. Even if it's to a minor level, it still would have held us on just a little bit. And instead, it went in the complete other direction. How many times this season is there a 45-second stint of just collapsing? Scott Lawton with the turnover in the D zone. Right after that, That D-zone draw by Sean Couturier where Jeff Skinner makes a play, how do you fall asleep that quickly? How do you not prepare yourself for a set play off the draw where within seconds of the puck dropping, you get a wide open net backdoor? They started this game out great, right? They're just grinding, scoring greasy goals in the first period, finding a way. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Just get to the greasy areas. Joe Farabee scoring in the slot area, and Oscar Lindblom just, hey, who'd the puck hit off of? Nobody knows. Nobody cares, though. Just the fact that it went past the netminder is all that matters. You have a 2-0 lead, and in a blink of an eye, you're tied. So then when you're up 3-2, in a blink of an eye, you're losing the game 4-3 because of all of these self-inflicting wounds. When this team allows a goal, they allow way too many goals. How is it possible to turn the puck over that much and with reliable guys out there on the ice? And if I'm Chuck Fletcher, whoo! Hey, who wants Brian Elliott? Who wants Scott Lawton? Who wants this guy, that guy, Nolan Patrick? Who wants any of these players? Because it's time. When it was 2-2, here's the difference between a team that knows what they're doing and a team that doesn't know what they're doing. A team with enough skill compared to a team that does not have enough skill. When they did lose that 2-0 lead and the score was 2-2, aube-kubel, wide open net, beautiful passing play, dished it backdoor, wide open net. The puck just flutters over his stick and goes past the net. I mean, are you joking? Lawton and Hayes had some chances there afterwards, too. I mean, that's the perfect answer. That's the perfect response. And then aube-kubel takes a penalty later on in the game. He sucks. Aube-kubel is just a bad hockey player this season. He has been such a trash bottom six forward this year. And I remember talking to a couple of my buddies at the end of last season about aube-kubel, and there were some that were actually worried about, hey, we can't lose him in the expansion draft. Huh? You can't lose him. I remember specifically saying he's a bottom six forward. He's a fourth line. Yes, you can. Of course you can. These fourth line guys, you can find another one. You can find a Raffle. If you move on from Raffle, you can find an aube-kubel. Aube-kubel is such a joke this season, and he has made just poor decisions all around, whether it's lazy penalties, not moving his feet, dumb decisions, interference calls, hooking penalties, just using his stick to get lazy penalties. That's been the MO of aube-kubel all season long. And then when he finally does get a chance to make up for something or to get on the board or make that extra play, he's failing over and over again. And he has been on my shit list more than he's been on my positives. Last year was awesome. What the hell happened? How do you fall off to this level? Oh, aube-kubel, he brings grindiness. He brings stuff that... Stop! He's brought you nothing this year but negative stuff. Negative! Unplayable style of play out of aube-kubel all year long. The problem is, when you look at your depth and guys that haven't been playing, you know, no one's going to step in here and do such a significant job over aube-kubel, but I think to some degree you have to make a statement. For AV to be the guy that's not afraid to call guys out, Carter Hart, Claude Giroux, the veterans, and all that, for him to constantly keep playing a guy like aube-kubel, I don't see the correlation here. If you're going to set the tone for one, you got to set the tone for everybody as well. You can't just pick and choose who you're going to do it. If you're going to scratch TK for bad defensive zone play and not being good 5-on-5, yet you're just going to constantly allow Nicholas aube-kubel to just play out there, float around, take some penalties, miss some grade A scoring chances, don't you see that there's a problem here? Don't you see that there's something that is a disconnect involved? I thought Joel Farabee, I mean, he was in play with that goal off the draw, so that was a negative for him, but he did have some really great flashes out there. The battle along the wall to pass to Shane Gostisbehere to score, and I got to give credit to Shane Gostisbehere. It has not been an easy season for him, and I'm someone that has been extremely tough on Ghost. I want to pull up some of these stats from Jordan Hall of NBC Sports Philadelphia. So Shane Gostisbehere, oh, hold on, he's tweeting a lot of quotes from the post-game press conferences. Where are we at here? Oh, no, that's the fight. Okay, you could argue this is Shane Gostisbehere. This is the best Shane Gostisbehere has looked offensively since 2017-2018. He has 8 goals and 14 points in his last 22 games. I do have to tip my cap to him and say you've done a better job than I ever would have thought you have. And since being waived, there is this, hey, screw you. Hey, I'm on my revenge tour type of mode out of Shane Gostisbehere, and he's been playing good hockey. Now, is that a product of everybody else being miserable and everybody else making mistakes and everybody else playing so poor that if you just play average or even below average, you look way better than you really are? Yes, but also you are scoring points, you are producing, and I always said there's a role for Shane Gostisbehere in today's era of hockey. But if you have him as your top pairing, you're a problem. If you have him as your sixth defenseman and your power play specialist, you're in such a better spot, and you can live with that. You can live with the production. Not every, especially in today's era, the game has changed. You can utilize a defenseman who's not very good in the D zone and create so much offensively. So he's limited defensively, but he can attack and help out your depth scoring and give you a power play threat. There's a role for that guy. Shane Gostisbehere can be that guy. He can't be on your top D pairing with Ivan Provorov, though. You just don't have other options, but that's where I think the Shane Gostisbehere effect is a problem, where, he can't be giving you 20-plus and playing 5-on-5 like that with so many minutes up at the top of your rotation here for your defenseman. It's just not going to work that way, so that's where the roster flaws are in place. That goal, by the way, to tie it up 3-3 by Jeff Skinner when the icing went down, initially I thought, hey, that's a good goal. And even when I saw some of the replays, I thought it was a good goal. But there were about 2 frames that you saw in slow motion where Claude Giroux's leg wasn't as much in play as I thought it was. And Jeff Skinner does kick that puck in. Do I understand staying with the call? Yes and no, but quite frankly, the more and more you looked at some of those replays, I thought you could make the case that it was clear and obvious that he did utilize his foot to sweep through the paint, to sweep through the puck, to put it in the back of the net. It was clear. His leg goes back, his skate goes back, and skates forward or pushes forward in a kicking motion to get that puck on through the net is what I should say. I hate the fact that Robert Haig started that all. I think it came down to him giving the Sabres just enough, even if it was a smidge of more possibility than prior to that. You open the door. If you were going to be someone that plays on the edge and plays in the corners and lays the body and wants to be tough and wants to give that cheeky little smile afterwards, guess what? You're going to have to back it up. And you started this mess. You allowed the Sabres to, because what happens is when you do that and their goalie's sitting at the red line as if Carter Hart's really going to go drop the mitts, bud. Shut up. Get back to your crease. What, did Carter Hart come out and put his glove on? So guys, shut up. Get back to your crease. Carter Hart is not going to drop the mitts with you and fight. So don't even pretend like it's a reality of the situation. But after you give a bunch of cross checks and everybody raises the intensity for about 3 minutes behind the net and helmets are flying and everyone's more engaged, what happens? Well, now you're more aware of everything. Now you're looking over your shoulder. Now you're finishing your checks harder. And you just gave the Sabres that style of play when it wasn't that way. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't as if Carter Hart got poke checked that hard after the whistle. There's times where it's warranted, where you got to make a statement, say, dude, you are not touching my goalie that way. And you get in his face and you throw a couple punches and you bring that attitude. That wasn't it, though. That was a soft touch, a whistle where it was like bang, bang. He barely touched Carter Hart. That was an overreaction, and that's just an unintelligent play. If I'm the coach, I'm looking at Hay going, dude, you started this. You started this. If you're a goon, if you're a fighter, if you're Ryan Reeves, if you're someone who does bring that level, like Travis Konechny is a guy, Tom Wilson is a guy, there's a line. All right? It's not just a free-for-all out there. And there's some that look at that as, Brodes, you're being way too harsh and you're looking at the wrong side of this. I disagree. I played the game. I played in leagues where you can drop the mitts. I played in juniors where there were momentum swings. There's a craft to it. That's why Tom Wilson is so special. Not only can he create offense and can he score goals and can he help that Washington Capitals team perform, but he also knows when to mix it up. You pick and choose. There's timely spots. If you think it's all fun and games and you can go out and do whatever you want, Robert Haig was smelling himself. Robert Haig felt confident. Thought, look, we're up 3-2. We're going to easily beat the Sabres. They stink. They have no leadership. They don't have Taylor Hall. He's going to get traded. Eichel's not available. This team's dead in the water. We'll be fine. That's what he thought. And shame on him because he was absolutely wrong. Here's what's not wrong. Utilizing DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, download it, and use promo code Brodes. There's so many fantastic odds boosts and promotions available that it's a no-brainer. Whether we're talking about the NHL, professional basketball, lots of action in the NBA, golf, of course, the Masters happened throughout this weekend, and there were some phenomenal odds there on the Masters tournament. What you can bet on. Baseball's back in town. You can look at some player props. Aaron Nola over-under for strikeouts. Zach Eflin over-under for strikeouts. You can look at the run totals, the money line. It's tremendous. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Brodes. That's promo code Brodes to check out all of their phenomenal odds boost and promotions. They have a limited time, so check it out. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Oh, it's so painful. Oh, it is so, so painful. Let's hear what you felt after the game.
It's the first time I've ever feel like having a dumbass overreaction of saying get rid of everyone, because that was just the most embarrassing thing as a fan of all four Philadelphia teams I've ever seen. And I feel horrible. I see why. That was on Kids Day. On Kids Day. The Flyers are wondering why they're lacking fans. It's because of crap like that.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. This is crushing. That loss was one of those where you take a step back and go, what the hell just happened? You were in control. That was in your grasp, and you let it slip. And you let it slip early on, but you bounced back, and you found a way to generate more offense and get a really nice play out of Farabee and Gostisbehere to score 5-hole, and you just found a way to retake the lead, and you felt that everything was going to be good. But maybe that's what happened. Maybe they felt too comfortable, and they thought this was a no-brainer as long as we shut it down and we chip pucks into their offensive zone. How are they possibly going to lose this game? I thought they just looked across the way and said, wow, the Buffalo Sabres are on the other side. There's no possible way. There's just no way. So it was an epic collapse from everybody involved. And I mean, I've been a part of those. It is damaging. You're in the showers after the game, and you're just in your stall, and maybe you sit in your gear for a while, and you let it soak in, and you allow it to digest in your stomach, and you just wonder what happened. That's keep you up at night type of loss. That's, you can't stop thinking about it all day. When you drive home to see your wife, to see your kid, you sit on that couch, and as much as you want to tune things out and say, look, that was so painful, I want to try and just let it away, put it away, let me just be the father for a little bit. You can't even do that. You're playing with your kids, and all you're thinking about is, wow, what a joke, what a tough one. You go down with just a brutal, painful loss. And I remember sitting there on my couch, and I was watching my fiance, who she doesn't really care too much for the Flyers. She loves sports, but I think I overdo the sports world where sometimes she's just over it and doesn't feel like really watching. But she was pretty engaged with this afternoon tilt, and when the Sabres kept scoring, she's like, oh, my God. Oh, what the hell? Oh, my God, what is going on? Oh, no, this is terrible. And I can hear her reactions on the other side of the couch, and I'm somewhat laughing because, this is someone who understands the game. I mean, she watched my whole entire hockey career played out, so she is knowledgeable of the sport. But, she was just blown away with what she was watching. I tried telling her, look, this Sabres team stinks. They don't win a lot of hockey games. They're selling at the deadline. The only team they seem to beat consistently is the Philadelphia Flyers, and this is crushing and damaging to what you thought maybe could have happened if they won this game. I'm telling you, imagine if they won this game. Not that it would have been a major change, not that it would have been a major possibility, but you win 2, you beat the Sabres, you beat the Bruins, and here you go with just a nice little bit of momentum. Let's see how it goes. Joel Farabee's cruising a bit, getting back on edge, and before you know it, with a blink of an eye. But this is the way it should have went, to be fair. If we're being logical with ourselves, isn't this the way that it should have went down? This is the proper way. This is the defining moment for this team this season. If you were to describe 2021 Flyers hockey, is it not this? Let's get to Carter Hart. I really haven't even touched on him. I mean, it's hard when guys like Scott Laughton are throwing the puck up the wall, when your team is getting annihilated off of a defensive zone draw, and within seconds, backdoor, there's a wide open shot. You did need some timely ones, though, right? Like, you had to come up big. Maybe that last goal, even though the puck stayed in the zone, come up with the stop or off of a rebound and all. Like, I mean, it wasn't perfect by Carter Hart. He was just as much of a problem as anybody else. So when I'm looking for that timely save, like, that's where it needs to happen. You need to get one of those tough ones, and then at least we can get to overtime and see what the hell happens. And from there, it's a different story. So each of those goals, though, you can say that something happened in front of Carter Hart for it to even occur. At the same time, though, you got to stand on your head and help out your fellas and rob one and get a monster one. It's sort of like when the Washington Capitals won a Stanley Cup. There is the save by Hopi for a reason. He had his team's back, and he made the save that changed the entire series and changed winning the Stanley Cup and not winning the Stanley Cup. It was the save. You're going to need the save to help you get over that jump, get over that hump. And Carter Hart has not been able to do that so far this season at all, for real.
Hey, Brodes, I don't know if you're planning on doing another podcast because I'm pretty sure I just watched the season end tonight or today, this afternoon, whatever you want to call it. I'm just sick and tired of this. I just don't know what to say anymore. How do you blow a 3-2 lead to the Buffalo Sabres? I don't understand. They're the worst team in hockey. They're one of the worst teams in NHL history. I mean, that's got to be said. But we just blew a 3-2 lead in the third period. I mean, I thought the first period was a very good period. I thought the Flyers were strong. You saw Farabee get on the board, and I thought they were rolling. And after that, it just kind of tumbled down. Then Gostisbehere scored, and then it felt like, well, this team could go on a roll, you know. They're sucking you back in, but it's over now. I mean, that's unfortunate. You have a lot of high hopes for this team at the start of the year, and that's basically over. But thanks, Brodes. Thank you later.
No, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to call in. Maybe this is for the best, though. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I will say, when they did score that 3-2 goal, I gave a good reaction, a good fist pump, and not that I was surprised by it, but I did almost just analyze that for a second. When Go scored that goal, I gave it like a good, like, yes, right? And I could see the crowd, the limited crowd at the Wells Fargo Center, get that rise. And it just almost took me back to last year when Ivan Provorov scores that overtime winner against the Islanders and going crazy in that playoff hockey feel. Not that that was a playoff hockey goal against a stinking Buffalo Sabres team by any stretch of the imagination, but it just like put it in perspective for me that I really want that. I really want to break down the Flyers in the playoffs. I want to talk about this team in meaningful hockey. I want that when you score a goal in the playoffs and you celebrate, you fist pump, you jump up into the glass and you see the team buzzing. And it was almost like that was like a, yeah, come on, baby. I feel like I haven't had that. Come on, motherfucker. I haven't had that all season long. And I mean, it takes desperation of thinking you have no shot and, you know, you're hanging on by a thread. It's taking you being on life support for me to have that natural reaction, but I had it. It's like, damn, like, I mean, it just like that feeling right there, put it in perspective that I want it. I want it more than I thought I'd do. Like, I want them to do it. I want them to sneak in. Because you could say over and over again in your head, I don't even want to deal with this team anymore. They're lifeless. I'm sick and tired of it. Put me out of my misery. I can't continue to watch this team play the way that they play all year long with these poor decisions in the D zone, the wide open guys in the slot. Stop playing the game because I'm sick of it. But that moment was almost the complete opposite and was more of a telling time of, I want it. I want the playoffs. And like I said, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because if they were going to hold you on and tease you and give you it's sort of like getting a little hand job, right? Like, hey, that's a tease. I want more than a hand job. That's kind of like what it would have been if you were holding on for dear life and you just got a hand job. No, I want more. I need more than the hand job. Oh, man. What's next?
There's a big reason why everyone in the city supports the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Eagles, and everyone's kind of towards the Flyers. This is the prime reason why. The fact that they can never put 2 seasons of quality together in a row. The fact that whenever they have expectations, they fall short of them. The fact that they've gotten beaten 3 times this year by one of the worst teams in the history of the NHL, a team that wouldn't even be good in the AHL. And they got owned by Jeff Skinner, who was one of the worst players in the entire league. It's just embarrassing. It's just flat out embarrassing. And Brodes, if you don't want to do the Flyers podcast anymore, I honestly don't blame you. But thanks for doing them anyway.
That's 2 calls now. That says, Brodes, I don't know if you're going to do this anymore. It's like I got conflicting feelings on that. One, I'm just taken back, like, oh man, thank you. Like, whew, wow. You know, people are like, Brodes, don't do this to yourself. We don't want you to do this to yourself. I'm like flattered that people feel that way. At the same time, it's so deflating, because it should never come down to this where, people who listen to the show, people who listen to the podcast are saying, just stop, Brodes. Stop. Don't waste your time. Don't do it. Are you going to do any more? There's no reason to do any more. It just sucks that we're even in this spot to begin with. I will counter just a little bit with the first point of, like, when you say, like, hey, no wonder why this city doesn't get on board. There's truth to that. Oh, there's no doubt that there's truth to that. I'm not denying that whatsoever. It's also just a niche sport, and you either like it or you don't. And there's very limited casual fans who, even if the team is good, you're only going to get X amount of people who tune in and watch to that level. But there is truth to, hey, there's expectations. Well, they fell flat on their face. Hey, they made the playoffs, missed the playoff. Made the playoff, missed the playoff. Made the playoff, missed the playoff. It's tiring. There's a ton of fatigue where, if you had 4 or 5 straight seasons of, like, I guess we can kind of relate it to baseball, even though baseball is not a niche sport, from 07, 08 through 2011, that area, when you knew that they were going to be good every year, everyone caught on. I don't think everyone catches on to hockey just because of the nature of the sport, but if they had the success of the Penguins, and I'll take away, like, the Stanley Cup part of things, but just consistently being in the playoffs, consistently being active, consistently being talked about, consistently performing at a reasonable rate. I'm not saying, obviously, if you win 3 Stanley Cups, you're going to be talked about, but I'm not talking about specifically the end goal and it being raising the Stanley Cup. I'm just talking about being an organization that has sustained success, that's constantly making the playoffs, constantly just involved in the top of the league and being discussed. If that was the case here, there would absolutely be more people that, jump onto the bandwagon, sort of like last year in the playoffs. You might not be the biggest hockey fan in the world, but you knew that they were involved. There were no other sports on a Tuesday night at 7. They're playing the Islanders in a playoff game. You're going to throw them on because you know that it's a big moment, even if you're not fully 100% understanding of exactly what's going on and what an icing is and why is that offsides and this and that. So, there is that element of it, and I'm not downplaying that. And you bring up a great point. Jeff Skinner has been somewhat mocked all season long as a guy that got way too overpaid, and he's a healthy scratch. And what was Buffalo thinking? Yet here he is just abusing not only your team, but some of your top players. And I've been someone that, look, I stand by this. When you look at Claude Giroux this season, sure, there are things that you can point out, like tonight with the icing, or this afternoon, I should say, and it wasn't his best moment, and there were some stretches throughout where, it wasn't Claude Giroux's best, but I also don't think you're even in this position without Claude Giroux to begin with. The amount of games that he willed you to victory is pretty outstanding throughout this whole season. So, sure, he's part of the blame, no doubt. No one's saying he's not part of the blame, but to just think that it's all his fault and he hasn't done anything well this year. I mean, I've said this before. I can make the argument that he's been pretty damn impressive just based off of willing you to be in this spot to begin with. And by the way, he's like 4th or so in all time in franchise points. So I just, for people that think that he's a problem, like, oh, God forbid, someone who is 4th or so. I don't know if it's 4th, 5th. It's in that range, though. Let's see if maybe I'll Google, because I saw the graphic pop up. Claude Giroux, Flyers all-time point list. I'm sure maybe it'll pop up because I saw the graphic. It would be nice if I could spell Giroux right, though. I can't see because of how far my Claude Giroux all-time. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll do Flyers point. Flyers point. If this doesn't pop up, it is what it is. It doesn't matter if it's 4 or 5 or whatever. But Claude Giroux needs 3 points to tie Brian Propp for 3rd on Flyers all-time scoring list. That was on April 8th. It's April 11th. So I guess that means he's 4th right now, and he needs a couple more. So, yeah, I mean, take that for what it is. If you think Claude Giroux is a problem after being 4th on the all-time Flyers list, maybe there's some other things to point at other than, just Claude Giroux in general. Although he did have a poor one, and that's fine. You can criticize Claude Giroux. I just think people take it to the stream. Anyway, we've done that enough this season. It's really not a conversation today. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.